Welcome to another edition of Very Vogue with me, Val Kleinhans, where we chat fashion, style, social media, pop culture, everything fun. Today, a little bit more on the fashion and style side with Amy Seeman, a self-proclaimed keep it realist and fashion stylist. She is in the building today. Welcome. You are here because you're Very Vogue, Amy. Thank you for being here.
Ah, well, thank you. I'm excited to chat with you about all the things.
All the things the gram knows. Let me tell you, the gram knows because the gram fed me you in
Oh,
the
really?
magical algorithm. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it happened because we're both in Minnesota.
Okay.
So
'Cause I was gonna ask, that was one of my questions is like, how'd you find me?
how'd you, that was how the
Not like I'm
algorithm,
that big. Yeah.
yeah, the algorithm
The
fed me
universe brought
you.
us together and said, you two need to have a conversation.
Apparently, it wants what it wants, and I
Yeah.
think
And we
I don't
can't
know.
deny it of what it wants.
No, but my guess was that it probably had something to do with the fact that we're sort of local-ish in the same
Yeah.
state. I'm in Rochester. You're in the cities.
Yeah.
Have you lived in Minnesota all your life?
I have not. I'm actually from a very small town in Indiana.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
my dad moved to Minnesota. He got a job offer like halfway through my senior year. And he's like, you're graduating. We're going to move when you're done. So he moved halfway through my senior year. And then my mom followed afterward. I went to college in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then when I
Oh,
graduated, I moved to Minnesota. And my husband, I met him my senior year here in Minnesota. And he is born and raised and still lives here. So I am here. I survive the winters. I'm here.
You know what? They're not as bad as I thought. Okay, because and everybody wanted to terrify me about these
Yeah.
winters. If you dress appropriately, you're fine. If you
Yeah.
make sure that your car battery is situated and you make sure you got enough gas in the tank, you're fine. You're situated. You could survive a winter here. Because I came from Pittsburgh, and yes, we definitely got snow, but we did
Yeah.
not get the wind chill. That's what's still an adjustment. The wind chill
Yeah.
is what's an adjustment because we didn't get that in Pittsburgh because there's
Yeah.
hills and mountains protecting us and valleys. Here, it's Laura Ingalls water. We're on the plains,
Yeah.
and
There's very specific requirements that
yeah,
my husband needs to meet every year in order for me to stay here. I need a trip in February. February is the month where I'm like, I'm out.
yeah.
I have a remote start of my car, a heated garage. No, I sound super high maintenance, but my son,
No.
he's 11, he was crying the other day because he's like, this is not even winter. There's been no snow. It's going to be
Oh,
warm. And I'm like, and then he starts going down this whole path about global warming and no one's doing anything. And I'm just,
baby, 11
we
is too
spiraled.
young for an existential crisis.
We
Way
really
too young.
spiraled. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we have better things to talk about than the weather.
Oh no, but it was that was funny because that was also really, really relatable. I've said the same things. Where did your love of fashion begin? Because you are seasoned.
Well, it's as a child, truly my favorite pastime was playing dress up in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I There's a home video, and I'm probably 7, and I changed my outfit 3 times during this surprise party we had for my grandma's birthday. And I
Oh,
said to my
cute.
mom, I was like, was I like a messy child? Why was I always changing? She goes, oh, Amy, you were always just changing your outfit, like playing dress up as much as you could. So, I think it's, Barbies, they didn't really act out. They just change outfits constantly. Like I just always loved
Mm.
it. And growing up in a small town, I had no idea what a stylist was. I truly thought that in order to do anything in fashion, I had to go to FIT and I had to like live in New York City.
Got
And
it,
so
got it.
it was never even anything on my radar. In college, I was like the room that everybody would come to get ready before we would go out. And then when I started working in corporate America, I would have so many coworkers that would say, like, oh, you never wear the same thing twice, which is not true, but I'm just really good at mixing and matching that they don't recognize the pieces.
Yes, yes.
Um, and I would say, oh, I'll help you. And so I'd go over to their house after work for a bottle of wine and like do their closet, or we'd go shopping over the lunch hour.
Will work for wine, always.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And then it got to a point where I actually had a mentor who I did her closet. And afterward, she's like, we're having a conversation, sit down. And she said, I have seen the transformation in some of the women that we work with after you have helped style them. Like their confidence has gone up, they're speaking up more in meetings, like they're just showing up differently. She's like, why
Yes.
are you not charging for this? And I was like, I can charge for this,
Mhm.
because in as a stylist, there isn't a true like educational path or any credentials. Like this is a no barrier to entry position, right? Anybody can call themselves a fashion stylist and start charging for it. And so it wasn't until she said that I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll see how that goes. And I started charging. And then I had the opportunity to be on Twin Cities Live. So I'm one of their resident fashion experts. And that really just gave me kind of the credibility and the confidence that, like, all right, I can call myself a fashion stylist, because I felt like such an imposter. You know, I
Yeah.
never worked for a fashion magazine or interned with a designer. I did a brief stint in retail, and then I realized that like I did not want to do the holiday hours, and so I quit.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so I was like, okay, I can start to call myself a fashion stylist. And then it got to a point where my work environment got very toxic in corporate America, and it kind of forced my hand. It was like the universe was pushing me to say, like, go live the life you're
Mm.
meant to live. And
Mm.
that was 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. And here I am.
Okay. No, that that timeline matches mine, which is so crazy because I left
Really?
the radio. Yes, because I left the radio industry in 2018 too.
Yep.
And now I'm doing this for fun, and I'm doing what every other Minnesotan does, and I work at Mayo Clinic during the day, and I do this for fun. But it just, it blows my mind how like taxing and toxic corporate America can be sometimes,
Oh,
and
mm,
it's the most devastating. Like it actually hurts your soul sometimes
yeah.
when it goes against every moral and
Mhm.
every value that you have and hold
Mhm.
as a human being. So tell me about that decision process to leave corporate
Yeah.
America and strike out on your own. Was it a conscious decision? What was that like for you?
It was a survival decision. So my environment got so toxic that it really impacted my physical and mental health. I'm an
Mm.
empath. Like I absorb everybody's, energy as my own. I was a leader. I was in a leadership role. And so I was having people coming to me that were on my team with their struggles, and I was absorbing that, and I was trying to keep them from
Oh,
what was happening at a higher level. It was a good old boys club. I was the only female leader on the team, and I was being paid less. And
me too.
I had a supervisor title, and they all had a manager title, even though I did the same work. And then I created, so I'm a mover and a shaker, right? We're creatives. That's what we do.
Let's
And
go.
in the 9 years that I was there, I had 7 different roles. And the last 3 were roles I had created for myself. Like they didn't exist before, right? But I saw an opportunity that aligned with my skill sets and market demands and organizational needs. And I created these roles. And yet I would still not, I was still not given the title that my peers had, my male peers had. And every time I would take that next
Mm.
step, they would backfill my role with a man and give him a manager title.
No.
This happened. This happened, Val, 3 different times. 3 times. And
Three.
every time I go to HR, they would say, "Oh, well, if you want to be a manager, you should apply for that role." I said, "I had that role.
You did.
I created that role." That's your answer.
Uh-uh.
So that happened repeatedly. And then we got a new VP, and he started sexually harassing me. And then that was like, okay,
Oh, bounce. Yeah, time.
that
Time.
was it. That was it.
We need a
And
dip. Yeah.
I'm not one that's going to go quietly. I kind of had a decision. So my husband is like, he's been the same company for 15 years. He is the most
Mhm.
content human being. He is so opposite of me, which is wonderful. He really balances me. But he was like, just try to, and he's like, I know you want to build your styling business, and it's really scary because when you have a 6-figure income to you go to like, I don't know when I'm going to get paid next or if I'm going to even have enough business.
Spooky.
He kept saying, well, just build your styling business out on the side, and then when it gets to a place where and just let everything go at work, just like put your head down, do it. And I was like, I can't. That is not how I work. Like my energy will not allow me to disconnect from the trauma that is happening here. And I was going to my doctor every year for lab work because I was having night sweats and migraines, and I was having tingling in my hands and feet.
Ugh.
And they would say, you're just stressed. You're just stressed. Because that's how stress manifests in my body. And I said to him, I said, I don't have energy at the end of the day to put towards anything else because this has sucked the life out of me. And it got to a
That's a
point,
sign.
we're gonna figure this out, but I have to go. And he was like, okay, all right, I hear you. Like, let's go then. But I decided that I couldn't just walk away without saying anything. So I brought to HR's attention the sexual harassment,
Hmm.
that's a podcast in itself. And I've done several of them on the whole thing. Um,
Mm.
basically, in the end, it became a he said, she said game.
Of
And
course.
they said that there wasn't enough evidence, concrete evidence, to prove that anything unlawful happened. And so they
Mm.
offered to move me to a different department because they wanted to keep me. And I said, you can't even tell me. I kept asking the question, help me understand then what is needed. Help me understand what is needed. What evidence is needed? And they could never answer that question. I said, you can't even tell me how to protect myself from this happening again. So you think I'm going to stay? I had a male boss at the time who was like in between me and the VP. And he was within earshot when it happened. The first time that it was like a significant, like, okay, you're now verbally sexually assaulting me.
Oh.
Before it was just like the undressing with the eyes, the really
Oh.
creepy
Yeah.
looks and stuff. And then it started to become verbal. And I went to him immediately after it happened because he was there. And he said, well, I'm sorry. And I was like, you're sorry? This is not okay. But he avoids conflict. Like, I
Okay.
don't even know how he's still a leader, to be honest. And so he did nothing. And then when I came forward finally 6 months later, he could no longer recall me coming to him.
Of course
So he
not.
chose to protect himself over me. And that is what stays. It's the disbelief and it's the knowing that like you had a chance to do the right thing and you chose not to. And he has a
Mm.
wife and he has daughters. And it took me therapy. I'm actually back in therapy doing some EMDR. I'm going to start EMDR because I'm realizing I'm holding on to a lot of this past trauma in terms of like my thought process and behaviors. Because after a while, when it keeps happening, you're like, is it me? Like, is that really me? Uh,
Yes. Oh.
And so anyway, I have gotten to a place where I pray that his wife or children are never in this position. And if they are, I hope that they have someone who is willing to do the right thing and not turn a blind eye to it like he did.
God, like it's not good for a host to be speechless, but I kind of am
But
because
you know what? My
it was
story is a dime a dozen, right? Like this.
that's the thing because I went through the exact same thing with my man. I was one of two females at my radio stations.
Yep.
I had rampant misogyny and chauvinism,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a point where my 41-year-old manager had me in a room. Okay, this wasn't quite sexual harassment, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
threat. It was a
Yep.
threat to my job. He had me in a room, shut the door, and said, if you don't fix blah, 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 it's over for you. I'll walk to the owner and you'll be out of the job now. What 41-year-old man shuts a door, hides a woman who is
Backs
25,
you into a corner.
it backs you into a corner? I'm like, and this guy, again, my thought was the same as yours. You have teenage daughters. At the time, he had teenage daughters. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, would you want them to be in this
Right.
position right
Mm-hmm.
now? No,
Mm-hmm.
you would probably slug the guy.
Yeah.
But you just it's just so mind blowing. And
It's
oh,
so maddening. It is. It really is.
oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and one of the things that I struggled
Feel
with
for you.
too, which you talk about, a little bit, is how, I struggle with the dichotomy of I understand that image is important and branding is important in corporate America. I have a hard time with it because I don't like, to me, I consider it inauthentic. I consider it very fake. I consider it just extremely disingenuous. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand the logic behind keeping things cohesive when it comes to branding. So for you, I was just
Mm-hmm.
curious if you ever had that challenge as a creative person where, you're being pigeonholed into this box and yet, your morals and your values and your sense of creativity is telling you otherwise. And how do we navigate that so that we can
Mm-hmm.
be somewhat successful in the corporate world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually was turned down for a position at one point that I was very qualified for. And I couldn't, the feedback was like not lining up. I'm like, I'm not really understanding why I didn't get this role. And it
Mm.
wasn't until another mentor that I had who was a male, and he's wonderful. Um, he connected with the hiring manager, and come to find out, it's because they thought that I was intimidating because I'm always dressed nice.
Oh,
So,
God.
so you look at this and you're like, okay, wait. So if I were to show up looking, because I have seen in my time in corporate America, I have seen individuals who um, legit looked like they were homeless walking through the skyway, and then I would get up close and realize it was a coworker. Like
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
business casual to a level that was so far off corporate brand. And then And so they weren't getting promoted in their career. And yet I am suddenly intimidating because I dress nice. You know what I mean? It's like that's where it is weird.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me as a creative is like I used my job as my runway, right? Like I was like, this is
Mm,
my chance to show up how I want to present myself to the world. I didn't care what anybody else was wearing. I didn't care if I was the most dressed in the room. And I still have that mentality today. Like I know what I feel good in.
hmm
But it was always appropriate. Like I think that's the lens is like you can wear the sequins to work, and I did, but it had
hmm
to be appropriate, right? Like it wasn't the sequin mini skirt that I'm wearing.
hmm
Um, yeah, I don't know. It is weird.
Well, no, it's you did a better job than I ever did because you were able to separate that in your mind of no, this is for me, period. End
Mm-hmm.
of sentence. For me, I was like, oh, it took me a while to find my own sense of style because I felt like I had to mold into
Yes.
whatever the hierarchy and classes at the top of the food chain
Yeah.
were telling me that I had to fit into. And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't mind dressing well, and I understand the importance of dressing well. I
Yeah.
understand that it doing so shows respect
Yep.
for the environment that you're in. I was raised that way and I very much
Yeah.
believe in it. But it was a really, really strange dichotomy where it's like, okay, I'm presenting well, but you still don't think I'm enough. Like
Mm.
there's still certain things where you're I call it nitpicking, but they're like you're
Mhm.
picking at me and saying, do this, do that, do this. And woo! It was just they were doing the most. How did you learn how to style though, in general? How did you learn how to put outfits together? Where did that come from?
By doing. That's what I would say by doing. I learned how to style different body types by styling different body types.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big picture thinker. I'm a visionary. And so for me, I love a good challenge too, like a style challenge. So if the other day I had a client who was 4'11". She's petite. And I was like, oh yes, I was so excited about that shopping appointment because I learn as I go. So it's educational for me and for the client as we're working
Okay.
together. I also think like um there's a sense of humility or yeah, humility that you have to have. Like I'm not afraid to say like I don't know. Someone will ask me a question,
Yeah.
like what jeans should I wear to fit my body type? And I'll look and I'll go, I don't know. I'd have to see it on you first. Like I don't
Mm,
have an exact answer, and I'm not afraid to say that, and I think that has certainly helped as well in my career. Is like I'm not afraid to say that. And I think the other thing too is um, I'm really passionate about helping people find their own individual style. There are a lot of women who have a great sense of style, and especially like the fashion bloggers. And I think when I first came on the scene, I struggled with where do I fit in? Because
mm,
I had a blog and I shared some fashion stuff, but it was more like one blazer styled 6 ways, where everyone else was like 6 images of them in the same outfit doing different poses.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's this beautiful aesthetic, and I'm not that. And then I didn't think of myself yet as a fashion stylist because, again, I didn't have like certain credentials. And it took me a while to like figure it out. And then I realized like to me, the fashion blog, the difference I finally in my head that made sense for me is like the fashion bloggers are, they're selling product, right? They're sharing
Mm,
what they like and wear, and they want you to buy that because then they
mhm.
make commission. And this is not throwing shade at all because like I have mad respect for the hustle. And I think that there is room for all of us.
Mhm.
For me, I don't want everyone to walk around dressed like me. I've always
I know what you
wanted
mean.
my own sense of style. Like even in high school, I was shopping TJ Maxx because I loved the hunt for like something different when everybody was wearing the same Abercrombie and Old Navy stuff at that,
Yeah.
right? Um, so yeah, so I don't know. I think that's a long-winded answer, but just kind of how I think about it and approach it is I want to figure out what makes you come alive,
hmm
and doesn't always have to be what's on trend. It doesn't always have to be something that I would wear. But I can tell by body language when you feel good, and then that's what brings me joy.
Totally. So, what is the secret to finding a sense of who that person is when you're styling them? Like you're helping a client. How do you
Mhm.
get a gauge on this is going to work for them? It's not going to work, or I know who they are, so I can style them based on that. How do you obtain that?
Yeah, it's a lot of questions. So um, I always like to understand what body type issues, right? Like where do they feel they have fit issues? Because we all know shopping off the rack is so hard, right? A
hmm
size 10 is not a size 10 in every store on every body type. So first I try to understand like some of the struggles that they have. because that makes me right away go into like, where can I help? I also try to get them to really focus on what do they love, not what do they want to hide. I talk about
Mm.
their lifestyle, like give me a day in the life. And then scenario based. So from there, I'll say, okay, tell me about a time when you went into your closet and you thought, I have nothing to wear. Like, where were you going? Because then I can help solve for those scenarios. And then
Okay.
I also talk about like, how do you want to show up? Like, what is your vibe? What energy do you want to give off? It's not what style do you want to have. Like, I want to be boho, or I want to be preppy, or I want to be quiet luxury. It's like, I want to feel like, for me, it's like I want to feel magnetic. I want people to want to be in my orbit, and I want them to be drawn to me because there's something interesting and there's something vibrant and there's something unexpected. And so like that's how I think about
Mm.
my style. And so I try to get to like, what is that with every client? And then as we start playing, I'll go, okay, I have a sense. And then as they start putting things on, I can tell right away whether we're in the right direction or not.
Mm-hmm. Because they might stand a little bit taller.
Oh yeah.
The smile gets a little bit wider, and we're like,
Yes.
let's go,
Shoulders
we're ready.
back. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And I can also tell, like, I'm not going to push something on you. So someone comes out and they're like, I'm not really sure. We give it a couple minutes. And I always say, like, talk to me. What about it?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, like, women, I really want to, like, stand outside dressing rooms sometimes and just, like, wait for women to come out, because they come out and they immediately go, And I'm like, wait. We got to tuck it in, got to roll it, or maybe it just needs tailoring here. Maybe it needs
Yeah.
work hemline, but we're very quick to be like, it doesn't work off the rack. I'm done. Um, and so I give it a few minutes, and then I can tell right away if if they're like not into it. I'm like, then let's move on. If you don't love it, you are not going to wear it. So let's move on.
Period. That's what I do for like my closet clean outs that I have from time to time. I
Yeah.
should do them a little more often, but I have like my general rules for that are if I haven't worn it in a year or if it doesn't fit, bye-bye.
Yep.
Those are like my two golden
Yep.
rules. Do you help people with that too, deciding like what to keep or get rid of or what to
Yeah.
add? And yeah.
Yes, that's probably the number one service is my wardrobe editing. I love to help women like maximize the investment that they've already made in their wardrobe, right? Um,
Mm.
what's challenging as a stylist is you never know what you're walking into, right? So like I'm going into
Yeah.
someone's home and into their closet, which is a very personal space. Like a lot of
Yes.
women, they're like, my friends have never even been in my closet. We hold emotions to our clothes. And so it is kind of a therapy session. Sometimes I'll leave and I'll be so exhausted. I feel like I can't even like keep my eyes open driving home, because again, the empath of the energy, like we
Mm,
did some
mhm.
work today, more so than just cleaning out the closet. But
Right.
I do a lot of that. And what I want is I want everyone to get to a place where when you walk into your closet and you have some event thrown on your calendar, right? Like some friends like, come to this happy hour with me. It's a networking event, whatever. We have to get out of this habit of like quickly going onto Amazon and having something next day delivered that is
Mm.
cheap quality, and because we just don't know what to wear. So we have to go buy something new. I want you to be able to go to your closet and have things that you love. Like I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, if we just like it, I want you to love it. And if you get to a place where you love what is in your closet, you will always find something to wear.
Yeah, I love that idea. Well, how do you protect your mental health when you have had somewhat of a overload
Yeah.
during a session?
Yeah. I'm getting better. Again, this whole therapy, cranial sacral therapy, EMDR, I'm on this like health journey and holistic healing. I've realized that my body holds a lot of trauma, and
Mm.
part of what has been affecting my health is just still stuff, even from 6 years ago when I left corporate America.
Yeah.
Um, I like to listen to bilateral music. So it's the sound waves that go back and forth, and that helps reset your brain. So sometimes when I get home, I'll go up into my room, I'll shut the door, I'll take 10 minutes, I'll lay on bed, I'll put my sleep mask on, I'll put my earbuds in, and I will just listen to that. And that just like, and I just focus on the sound, and that resets me.
Wow, I want to try that. It was
Yeah,
like,
it helps me when I can't sleep too, because you're probably like me and creative, lay awake at night and all of a sudden you're thinking of all these like amazing ideas,
oh
which is
yeah.
terrible for sleep. So I do it lots of times right before sleep as well.
Yeah, I either have an idea of an outfit I want to put together or an idea for like podcast artwork, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about that stupid email I sent earlier in the day that I could
Yeah.
have phrased differently.
Or
And
the
it's
one
always
that
at 2 a.m.
the one 2 weeks ago that you forgot to send, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I never got back to them.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 2 a.m. and the cat is now awake and she's like, "Oh, great, food time." And she's like purring and wants attention now because she thinks
Yeah.
I'm up. It's a
Yeah.
zoo. It's chaos. Is
Mm-hmm. I know it's hard being a creative, like living in this brain. I've met with a couple mediums in the last few years, and one of them, she said, it was loud in your head. I was like, it sure is. There are a lot of people living up here.
I want to do that sometime. I want to do that sometime.
Oh,
I want to
so
try. I want to try a medium one time. I never have, but I want to try it one time to get some answers on like family history that I've always had. I would love to do it for that. That would be a lot of fun.
Some recs for you. Yep. Locally, if you want to see someone in person, Jody Levon. She's wonderful. I've done it with her. Virtually, I've done it with Natalie Taylor. She's also really great. I did one with Natalie in the last year because I was having some health issues, and I was also kind of at this place with my career where I was like at this crossroads of
so you were getting answers on the career and the health.
So those are my two things. It's like, health, am I missing something? Because my fear has been, since everybody just keeps saying it's stress, and I just have a hard time accepting that. I feel like I have stage 4 cancer and they just haven't found it yet. So I've become like a hypochondriac. So I was like, I just need someone to tell me like, you're okay. Yeah. And ironically, she validated it as stress. And that's kind of why I started doing all this other therapy stuff, because she's like, you need to release, your body needs to release this. And then my career, what she said, is the loveliest thing. She said, you are living your soul's purpose. And I was like,
okay.
And I feel that like
validating.
In the last year, I have really felt like I am doing what I am meant to be doing. And it's so interesting when you are on your truest path, how the universe just starts to like open doors for you. And even in the last like 2 months, even in the last month since I started therapy, the craniosacral therapy, I am feeling this shift where things are just like falling into place. And I think it's because I've, again, been able to like let go of some of this trauma.
That is beautiful. What is next for you? What can we look forward to coming from you?
I do have a fun project coming. I'm not quite ready to announce it yet, but follow me on Instagram because it will be announced hopefully soon. Really what I'm doing is I have found such a passion and purpose for helping women feel their best. I just think that so many of us are operating at like 60%, 40%. We've lost our sparkle somewhere along the way. And it's not even just in terms of style, but it's in terms of like listening to their stories, right? And connecting them with people that can help move them forward. I just have found such a love for this. I'm a connector. I'm an empath. I'm a storyteller. I'm an oversharer. I'm a style. Like all of this is kind of coming into what is next for me, but centered around helping.
Okay, and keep an eye on the socials. We'll find it all there. I'm so excited. Amy, wonderful nuggets of wisdom today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me.